anglerfish.
Anglerfish. Anglerfish. Why is this not? There we go. Okay.
From the terrifying deeps. That's the fish with that.
Yeah, I know. It's in the SpongeBob movie. They have one with a grandma on its tongue.
That's right.
That's a
with
weird.
the ice cream stand.
That's a weird sentence I just said.
Grandma tongue.
Grandma tongue. I'm Scott.
I'm Ben.
And this is a review. On today's episode, which is episode 57, we'll be reviewing Alita Battle Angel. Alita Battle Angel stars Rose Salazar. Is that how you say her name?
Yeah, it's Rose or Rosa.
I think it's Rose. Rose Salazar,
Yeah.
Who plays a dumpster baby that Christoph Waltz finds in the trash, and he turns her into his own personal real doll. Ben, what did you think about Alita Battle Angel?
I mean, I didn't have the highest expectations for this. I've always been a little uneasy ever since the first trailer dropped, mainly because of the fucking eyes and the uncanny valley.
Now, I had to pull you back and say that you were the one that was more on board with this when this trailer came out, and I was the one that was like, no, that looks weird. And I kept talking about how weird the eyes looked, and you guys all were like, you're crazy. Or not you're crazy, but you guys didn't really agree with me.
Oh, yeah.
I distinctly remember you guys were all, you and TJ were both
I was
on
cautiously
board.
optimistic.
Yeah.
I'll
I'll
go that far.
I just gotta call you out on that.
That's fine. That's fine. Maybe it's because it doesn't work like in the real movie.
Because we just watched
like
the movie.
Re-engineering my...
Yeah.
Yeah, where I'm like, I knew it was bad the whole time.
Yeah, no. I've been the true believer here from the beginning. The true non-believer from the beginning. But, I mean, you had good reason to think this would be good. I mean, it's produced by James Cameron. It's directed by Robert Rodriguez, who I feel like is a director that we'll often talk shit about. I don't know if we talk shit about him on this review, just in our everyday lives. But I love all of his movies, basically. Like, he's
made some neat movies.
I mean, like, From Dusk Till Dawn, Spy Kids.
Yep.
Not great now, but fun as kids.
Sin City.
Sin City. Machete was really fun. Planet Terror.
Yep.
Mariachi. Like, he's had the hits. So he created a whole Spanish language channel on TV. The Mariachi? El Rey.
Yeah.
The Mariachi show is on there, right? Or
Correct.
Dusk Till Dawn, or I don't know. Anyways,
Dusk Till Dawn. Yeah.
So, interesting duo. I always thought it was weird seeing, because Robert Rodriguez is kind of famous for doing low budget. That's his whole shtick. And this is like this is not a low budget. This is like $200 million, right?
Yep.
And that's before marketing. They always like make a point of saying that in articles you'll read about this movie. And yeah, it's an adaptation of like a anime or a manga, or I don't know. I think it's both.
It's a manga that was made into an anime. If
Sure.
I'm getting the verbiage right.
Yeah, and this movie has been in development for a long time.
Yeah.
And I always remember the quote. It was like, we were waiting for the technology to catch up. And I remember watching this movie. I was sitting there thinking, so they had to wait 10 years for the technology to catch up to the point it's been 15 years ago. Like, this movie doesn't look good at first. The world is pretty nice and looks pretty good, but the characters are all very jarring and weird looking. There's a lot of uncanny valley, like you were saying, with the eyes.
Yeah, I think they're pushing the technology in like a weird way where we haven't really seen it applied like this way. Fair. Trying to create like photorealistic human CG hybrids.
I mean, we kind of have, though. I mean, maybe you're right, but I feel like it's been out there, and I mean, like this specifically, no, I guess, but like most movies, we've had fully CGI worlds that you have characters living in, and you know what I mean. Like, that's not a new concept.
Yeah, I think I mean more like
it was
where
like,
the line of like human robot is kind of blurred, and you have to make them kind of like seamless, like.
True, where you don't know who's a cyborg or not, because that's the big thing. They're not robots; they're cyborgs. They're all partly human. Mainly, they'll have a human face.
Yeah.
At the very least. They could have an entire robot body and robot head, but they'll still have a robot face and I guess a human face and a human brain, I guess, or part of a human brain. I don't even know.
Yeah, the science behind how the cyborgs work is a little foggy. I gotta admit,
it's flimsy at best, but like I'll say that I don't think it's the most important thing in this movie, because these guys. The neat thing about this is that like these characters can all just like tear each other apart, and like they do very frequently, and like there's some brutal deaths, and like you see people get ripped to shreds, but then as long as their face and their head is intact, they're like zombies. They can just like drag their head back to a laboratory and like build them a new body. I'm like, all right, that's kind of a neat idea, and it's kind of fun to see some of these characters that just can't die. They just keep surviving through all these adversities. But the weird thing, so okay, the basic story here is Christoph Waltz is like a scientist. He's like a doctor that repairs cyborgs, right? And he finds Alita in the trash. She's wandering around in the trash. He finds basically her torso and her head, and she's intact. So he brings her back, gives her his daughter's body that he was going to make for his daughter that was in a wheelchair. That's a whole other side story that doesn't get paid off very well. But so he gives her a body, and then we're introduced to Alita. And the whole movie is her just trying to figure out who she is because she can't remember. And you get little bits here and there. She's a badass fighter just by instinct. So we know she had a mysterious past where she was more than she seems and blah, blah, blah. It's something you've seen. It's nothing new. The story, you know what I mean? Like, it's a pretty...
The framing device is pretty, like, where it's like, ooh, she's getting flashed and she doesn't know who she really is. Kind of a blank slate, fish out of water. It's all been done before.
Just be ready. They're about to do this much better in Captain Marvel coming out next month. Like, you can tell on the trailers, like, they're going for the same thing.
Yeah. Like the OG Thor did, too.
Thor did. Well, yeah, true. So her kind of being introduced to the world is weird because she's already been alive before, but she's acting like she's coming to life for the first time and doesn't know what anything is. But then that shtick kind of, like, they kind of forget about that really quick. You know what I mean? Like, they're kind of doing the, like...
She falls in line pretty quick, yeah.
But, like, it's very weird. Like, she's eating stuff and doesn't know how to eat right, and she's, like, about to get hit by cars, and it's just like, okay, it's a very, like, standard fish out of water kind of thing, but, like, there's no context to it.
Yeah, it's, like, very... And then that's where you get sort of your first glimpses into some of the uncanny effects where you have to kind of be adjusting to, like, ooh, like... These eyes are weird.
Well, and like there was, I noticed this was a weird thing that I was bothered by. There was a lot of scenes early on of Alita picking up food and then putting it in her mouth and eating it for some reason. Those three things together looked very weird, and they kept doing it.
Yeah.
And it was like, I thought it was her human mouth. Like, her mouth is not CGI, is it? It might be. She might be fully CGI. I don't know. I couldn't tell.
I don't know the extent of, like...
I think it's just her eyes, though.
Where, like, the blend from, like, her, like, having the live actor and the animation. Like, so to the animation's credit, it's that good to where it's, like, fairly seamless. Like,
it's seamless, but in a weird way.
Yeah.
That's the problem with her.
It's uncanny,
because her mouth... I think what it is her eyes don't fit on her head. They're too big for her head. They look like anime drawing eyes, but she's the only character, other than the other whatever she is in the flashbacks. They show other robots that are like her or cyborgs that are like her, but like they're the only ones that have the big eyes.
Yeah.
Everyone else in the world, all the cyborgs are just regular looking people for the most part. You know what I mean? Like regular faces. Mm-hmm. And so to me, I thought that was a really bad choice because they can't really justify it. Because if everyone had the big eyes, it'd be like, okay, they're copying the anime. But if she's the only one, it just looks weird. And it got a little better as it went along. She gets a bigger, taller, more adult body. That's the other weird thing. It's like in the first half of the movie, she's like a teenager, but she's not. And it's Rose Salazar, who's in her 30s. Like, but she's got these big, weird eyes, so she looks young and she's short, but then they like put her in a taller body and she looks a little bit more like herself, but she's still got the big eyes and it still looks kind of young, and it's just like okay, but you guys were referring to her as a teenager before, and now you're just like, okay, she's an adult now. The whole thing was very weird to me. That whole, like, process.
Yeah,
You know?
and it's not helped at all by what are some pretty sleepwalky performances.
Whoa.
Like, where you would think
Yeah.
things would be really, really good. Christoph Waltz is a 2-time Oscar winner.
And he's always great, except here he is just like he's like he's on Xanax the whole movie. Like he's zonked out.
Yeah.
He looks like he's literally like half asleep. You
And
know
he has
what I
a lot
mean?
of bad dialogue too. Like he's like churning exposition. Same with Mahershala Ali, who again is probably going to be a 2-time Academy Award winner if the trend with Green Book continues.
Well,
and
he's just playing.
He's just like here.
He just looks like he should have been in the Matrix the whole movie. Like every time he kept popping up, I was like, Morpheus, is that? Like, yeah, he's always like really just like intently staring, and he's got those glasses on. You know what I mean? He's got that deadpan look, and it's just like he's not emoting at all.
No.
And then you've got Jennifer Connelly, who's also just kind of there. She has a big character turn halfway through the movie, and you're just like, why? Like, what happened? Yeah. What happened? And the love interest, I don't know this actor's name, but the kid that's like Alita's love interest, he harkened to me. He was like a Disney Channel original actor. That's what it felt like.
Yeah, he felt like he was yanked off the set of like a Lifetime movie or something, and they're like, "Yep, and we need you."
And I've mentioned, I keep saying the first half of this movie, the dialogue is especially stiff and awkward, and it's like, I know it's a lot of high concept weird stuff that we're trying to accept all in a short period of time, but the dialogue feels like it's loosely translated Japanese. Like it feels like they took the dialogue directly from the anime and it's like anime weird talk works because it's a cartoon, just like a lot of the weird facsimiles with like the style. Like it works because of what it is. Mm-hmm. When you translate it to real life, it's like you gotta make it work for what the medium is more. And like it just, some of the dialogue was really awkward, and like it's just annoying. I found it very annoying, and I kept thinking lame.
Yes.
I kept thinking this is fucking lame.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. It's very, very just like bland. It just kind of like uninteresting for, like you said, the first hour. I agree. And the pacing's bad too. Like there's really, the plot really just kind of meanders here until like basically the third act is where they finally like decide what movie it's going to be.
Right. Well, it's like you kind of, it is sort of setting up who the villains are in the background, and you have an idea, but you don't have an idea of why they're the villains or what their relation is to Alita. And that's the other big problem with this movie ends on a major cliffhanger, in the sense that like you don't get resolution. It doesn't end on a cliffhanger as much as it just doesn't resolve itself. Like it obviously is like there's going to be another sequel where we're going to have Edward Norton, who looks like he's cosplaying as James Cameron in cyberpunk gear, is going to be the main villain. But they've been like building this character up the whole movie, Nova or whatever, and you never get to see him at all. And like, you know, if they actually were going to make the sequel, that'd be great to actually like go back and, but I don't think they're going to make the sequel. This movie's not doing that well.
This movie's bombing. This movie probably, reports suggest it has to make between $500 to $600 million just to like not lose money. Because the production budget alone was like 200 to 250. Because this movie kept getting delayed and delayed. And I think it was delayed like 3 or 4 times. Like,
you can tell because they obviously didn't rewrite the script, because like the whole like, this must be something from the anime, but the whole what is it called, the sport they do, motorball is entertaining as it is. It's very 90s.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like this roller skating, like it's basically roller derby. It's just roller derby.
Yeah, it's
roller derby with a ball.
Roller derby cyber quidditch.
Yeah. And like it's something that's like the first time they show it, I was like, this is fucking lame. And I'm not saying that roller derby's lame, because like roller derby's fine. It's just like in the context of this movie, it was just like really like, oh my god, this is so lame. And then later in the movie, they actually did have a really good sequence with motor ball or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, this is cool. And to this movie's credit, the second half of this movie, it does feel like it's a different movie. It picks up, it finally, like, it's given you enough information, and it's bogged down. Like, the whole movie is just information for the first half. And then it's like, okay, now we're just going to go with this, you know? And you actually can, like, have fun. The action sequences are all pretty stellar for, like, CGI mess action sequences. I thought about Ready Player One a lot watching this.
Yep.
And it's got these, like, two perfectly choreographed mess sequences where it's, like, messy but neatly messy, if that makes sense. Where it's, like, these like, if a character is falling, they're specifically falling in a very specific way so that another character can interact with them and move on to it's everything is like, so it's like a program executing this motion, and there's no, like, even when they're trying to engineer, like, the feel of messiness, it still feels so clean.
Yeah, there's not a lot of, like, organic tension or like real physicality to it. I mean, like, they're kind of weightless, I guess.
Yeah,
is probably the way to
that's
say
a great
it.
way of putting it.
It's like, oh, this is like you said, Ready
all-
Player One. Name a movie with a big CGI set piece where a lot of shit is flying around. Transformers.
Right.
You know, you've seen it so many times before where it's just like,
But
it's cool.
This was the reason I would compare this more to Ready Player One is that while those negative things are there, the actual execution was neat, and it was like, these are neat. It's like, it reminded me of the race sequence from Ready Player One, where it was like, this is a little bit too clean, but it's cool, and, like, it is well thought out. Like, they are, like, there was a lot of thought that went into this, and seeing, like, this slow motion, like, one thing flying here, then a character jumping and doing this, and then and then seeing how it all kind of happens. It is like, it's not like Transformers where it's too close and you can't see. It's actually, you can actually tell what's happening.
That's definitely
fluid.
It's fluid, and there's a overall pretty strong geography to the action sequences, which make them a lot of fun. Where, like, they cut together really well, and, like,
So it's like you had to take the good with the bad. It's like they're well-crafted scenes to a fault, but they're still really fun.
Mm-hmm. They're definitely the highlights of the film, for sure.
Well, the battle scenes, and the fact that this movie is pretty gnarly. Like, this is, and, like, once again, Robert Rodriguez, who is no stranger to making violent films. Like, watch Machete, and it's just finding fun ways to murder people with machetes. This movie, for a PG-13 action movie, like, it goes pretty heavy. There's some pretty, like people getting chopped. There's a lot of people getting chopped into lots of pieces.
Yeah.
And they justify it because they're all cyborgs. But, like, people get their heads chopped off and they die and they're dead. And you see it, like, people get chopped down the middle. It's very Mortal Kombat. You said that we were walking out. I won't spoil one of them, but one guy gets a perfect kill, and they actually set it up in the movie in a really great way. You know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. And it's actually a really satisfying payoff when you get to see. And he doesn't even get killed.
Yeah, he just gets maimed. He gets maimed like a Mortal Kombat fatality. It's pretty brutal.
Literally. So I gotta say, for having a really slow, awkward, laugh out loud, bad start, like, there was a lot of The Room level acting in this.
Oh yeah,
and that never really gets resolved. But the movie figures out what to do with that, and it actually becomes pretty endearing by the end. And I was actually, like, pretty keyed into the story by the time this was over, and, like, kind of bummed at the way it ended, because I was like, I wanted to kind of see a resolution here.
For sure, yeah. That's definitely probably the biggest storytelling accomplishment of the movie, is that once it does find itself, it does make you give a shit. And, like, that makes the dangling thread, like, kind of thunk, like, that much more, because you're like, well, what the fuck? Like, it was just kind of getting good now, and, like, neat, and, like, I could watch, like, another half hour of this.
Right.
But then it's just, we blew the first hour of the movie, so now we have to, like, wrap all this shit up.
Right.
So it's disappointing at the end.
Well, it is also kind of like, I would say it's kind of a bold ending too. It's kind of an Empire Strikes Back ending, where it's like ends on a pretty dour note, and it's like a pretty, like, you know what I mean? And it's like, I like the ending of this movie just as a movie. You know what I mean? Like, in the hopes of a sequel, but with no sequel, it's like, well, this sucks. This is a wet blanket. So yeah, it's definitely a huge mixed bag for me, this whole movie. But I think we're ready for final thoughts. So Ben, final thoughts on Alita Battle Angel.
Mixed bag is probably, yeah, perfect phrase. There's a lot of really rough dialogue and acting and poor plotting in the first half, but it sort of all kind of resolves itself. And by the last half hour, I actually was having a good bit of fun. There's enough interspersed out where you don't want to walk out. Like, I never was like, oh, fuck this. I don't want to see how it resolves itself, or like see where this goes from here. But yeah, I mean, when you have a movie with that much in it where it never goes away, that's rough. But yeah, some of the CG is pretty neat. Some of the fight scenes are pretty neat. Anything that isn't really the effort of a lot of animators and second unit directors is pretty bad to meh. So I would give the Alita Battle Angel a 5 googly eyes out of 10. Yeah.
Yeah, I was not a fan of this walking in. Like, when this started, this was pretty rough. I remember leaning over to you and saying this is dog shit at one point. The acting is terrible. The dialogue is awful. But surprisingly, there's a story here, and it's actually good. It's an interesting story. I don't even know if it's good. I think it's interesting, and I liked it. I think it's one of those stories that has potential to be great, but we don't know how it's going to resolve. We never will. I mean, unless we watch the anime, maybe. And I don't know I've never seen the anime, neither have you, so I don't know. But it has some great effects when it's reveling in being a video game. It's great, and I think it's probably the best anime live action adaptation out there, I dare say. I'm not as well versed in the genre, but I think it's probably one of the best ones out there. I think they're getting closer. We're getting close to figuring it out. Our Marvel formula is almost there. So I'm gonna give Alita Battle Angel 7 severed limbs out of 10.
Some of the robots indeed have 7 limbs to be severed.
That's true, yeah. And that's another thing we didn't really get a lot into, is there's some pretty interesting designs for the robots. Yeah. The cyborgs, they're all pretty like unique looking. They have some neat like weapons that they use, and like there's a lot going on here. I remember at one point I was just thinking, this would be a great cartoon. Oh, wait a minute. So at the very least, I'm interested to go back and watch this series. I would like to watch the original. If there's like an anime out there or whatever there is, I'm now interested in checking it out. So, hey, that's a pretty good feat for a movie. I'll say that's a goal accomplished, right?
Yeah. Drive interest in the IP.
Exactly. So, yeah, that's been our review of Alita Battle Angel. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I don't know what we're reviewing next. We have a Netflix thing that we keep saying we're going to review, and we keep not doing it, but we will. So stay tuned for that. That'll just pop up on our site at some point, and then whatever the big movie is next week, How to Train Your Dragon, probably.
Probably, yeah.
So that'll be that, and yeah, as always, I'm Scott.
I'm Ben.
And this has been a review. Thanks for listening.